With a vision of growing the most sustainable and most rewarding potash project in the world, London AIM and Aussie-listed Lake Potash has recently agreed a second non-binding offtake agreement for its anticipated fertilizer production at its lakes in Western Australia. From the corporate development team is Joe Battershall, who's a corporate executive at the company. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeremy.
That was a quote from your website. I want to get into detail about just precisely what it is you're doing in terms of the green side of it. But what is it that you're proposing to offer investors here at SLP?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, I mean, we are a development, Australian and UK listed development company. We're in the SOP space, which is the sulphate of potash space. So very different from the larger MOP markets, global MOP markets. Sulphate of potash has some particular characteristics that are, it's a higher value product, gets put into fruits, vegetables, oils, so a higher value produce and agricultural products. We're developing a project that is essentially digging trenches on these salt lakes, and we take the brines from these salt lakes in Western Australia, we put it into evaporation ponds, and then we let the sun do the work. So the sun basically precipitates salts out, evaporates the brines, and we're left with salts we then harvest, and through a very simple chemical process we convert those into what is SOP, which is a high value product. SOP pricing at the moment is circa $600 a tonne, and our studies show we can produce this for a third of that, so it's very high margin business.
Right, okay. I said as well that you have just announced your second non-binding memorandum of understanding for the offtake. Where does this put you along the path of getting the whole thing up and running and sold onto the market? Yeah,
that's a very fair question. So we have a scoping study on a plant. We're calling it a demonstration plant. The demonstration plant is going to be 50,000 tonnes per annum. That's our expected, and everything's been sized and modelled to that. So the offtake agreements, we've got an offtake agreement with Mitsubishi Corporation for 50% of the demonstration plant, and we've recently signed a second offtake with Sinofert, which is China's largest fertilizer supplier. But interesting, they've asked for 50% of everything we can produce from the Goldfield Salt Lake project, not just the demonstration plant, which is a slightly different intent, obviously. So where we're at with that scoping study is we want to convert that scoping study to a feasibility study by the end of this year, at which point we will go ahead with the project. We'll look to order the plant, and hopefully we'll be bolting this plant together on the lake at Lake Way in the third quarter of next year. So in the interim, we are going to commence the construction of the evaporation ponds on Lake Way shortly. I mean, we received our final permit from the Mines Department just this week. Yeah,
have you got the money to do all this work?
Look, the cost of doing the ponds, the initial ponds, is about $3 million. We've just put our annual report out, and at the end of September we basically had $4 million worth of liquidity. Look, I mean, funding is a fairly common question for us. We believe that the duration of the project and the economics of the project will enable it to support some debt. So we're going through the process of looking at debt providers for the demonstration plant. That demonstration plant the cost has been estimated at just under 50 million Australian dollars. So we've got a little bit in the bank. We're looking for some debt. And we've got some ongoing discussions with strategics, and we're very, very cognizant of that it's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Does Sinofert and Mitsubishi potentially take part in anything that you might want to have in terms of raising money?
In terms of the Mitsubishi MOU made reference to potentially being involved in discussions to assist with funding, but there's no mention of that within the Sinofert one.
Okay. I just want to go back, if I can, and ask about, as I said at the top, you're growing the most sustainable and most rewarding potash project in the world. Just elaborate on this a little bit. You gave a little bit of an insight in the fact you're letting the sun do a lot of the work, and the fact you're producing something which gives you a fairly hefty margin. Drill down a little bit further, if you can, on that, and explain more about what it is you're proposing to offer investors.
What we believe we offer is this sustainability in that we're using brines from a salt lake that is within a large catchment area. I mean, this area receives 200 millimetres of rain a year. By virtue of being a salt lake, which is a terminal endpoint for water, all of the water that falls basically drains into these salt lakes. So you effectively have this resource that recharges every time it rains. So we work on a study of 25-year mine life for the projects, but in reality you're going to get this constant renewal of a resource, which makes it very different from a conventional mining project. And additionally, we've commenced the process for organic certification. So within the process to convert the salts into a SOP, the only reagent you use through the flotation is an organic reagent. So the organic market is growing at plus 10% CAGR over the last decade, and we believe that's going to keep going. And the interesting aspect of the organic market is you receive a significant premium on your product for producing organic material. So in terms of being sustainable, look, I mean, we think this is clean, green, and sustainable, and very long life, great margins. It fits a lot of portfolio mandates, put it that way.
When you look at your front page of your website, I think you've got an aerial picture of the lakes around. I think you referred to Lake Way. How many of those lakes do you have an interest in? How many can you ultimately use to extract SOP?
Well, we own 9 lakes on a 100% basis at the moment. We've done a lot of work at Lake Wells, which is where we started our program. It's the most remote lake, which kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was the first one that was actually permitted through the West Australian government. We've done a lot of work out there. We've run a scoping study there, which demonstrated a 400,000 tonne per annum project could be built for $200 million US, with operating costs less than $200 a tonne FOB to the port of Esperance. We've parked that. We were going to build a demonstration plant there, but the Lakeway opportunity became apparent that it was, to us, is unequivocally the best place to build a demonstration plant from an economic basis as well. Lots of infrastructure there, so we can leverage off that. But so that's just 2 lakes. If we could develop Lake Wells as a 400,000 tonne per annum, Lake Way is going to be 50 as a demonstration plant. We believe that we can then expand that. We believe that Lake Way could support a 200,000 tonne per annum production. So just between 2 lakes, we're at 600,000 tonnes. Potential, and there's many other lakes to go as well.
Yeah, a lot of ifs and buts there, of course. I want to take a look at the share price if I can. 26.5 pence. This is the London listed share. I think you were talking before we went to air that you're about 50 million sterling market cap at the moment. What's priced in at these levels? I mean, you've got a lot of potential, just as you explained. You were saying ultimately, but what are investors buying at 26.5 pence?
Look, it's always a very difficult question to answer. But if I look at the expectations of what we see as potential cash flow just from the demonstration plant. I mean, I look at it as a worst case scenario that the only thing we ever do is build a demonstration plant that produces 50,000 tonnes per annum. We'd be trading at a significant discount to the cash flows that would generate, because that would have a life of potentially 50 years based on the resources that are there. So I think at the moment the market there's a question mark over funding. $4 million in the bank with a $49 million development to go. So that question is appropriate. But I think at the moment the share price is just looking at the demonstration plant. I don't think it's giving any value to the province that we own and will ultimately look to develop.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, you've got these 2 non-binding MOUs in place, and you just received this regulatory approval to conduct certain tech works. What's along the line now that we should watch out for to say, ticked off, ticked off, ticked off?
No, very important point. And just to clarify, the release we put out on Monday this week, which was the final permits from the Western Australian government. That's not just to allow technical work. That is actually to commence construction of the ponds that allow us to dewater this open pit that's full of brine. So that's really quite important for us. I mean, we could literally start work tomorrow if we wanted to. We're having some discussions with some of the traditional owners. We think it's very important to start with a very strong relationship with the traditional owners of the land. So something we sort of pride ourselves on. So I mean, going forward between now and Christmas, I mean, we would look to see announcements that would say, look, we've commenced construction of the initial ponds, started dewatering. Hopefully we would look to get some additional information out on some of the other lakes with regards to what those resources could look like. And ideally, we'd like to be ordering long lead items for the plant. One of the items of the plant has a 36-week long lead time. So if we can get that in before Christmas, then that puts us in good stead for getting this thing built in Q3 next year.
Good. Well, good luck, and look forward to
Thank
hearing
you.
more from you. Joe, in the meantime, thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy.
That's Joe Battershall, who's Corporate Executive at Lake Potash with the operations in Western Australia.